an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering One Piece, Season 1, Episodes 2 and 3. In these episodes, we go and rescue Zoro, who fights with the famed three-sword method, where evidently one of the swords is clenched in his teeth. I don't totally see the advantage on that one, I have to admit. Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha. Thank you very much to Florian for commissioning this episode. And I think, Florian, it was this morning or yesterday, maybe, that you commissioned another wannabe episode, so you'll be guesting again, so that's fun. And I was talking to Owen about how it was a 20-minute episode and we still managed to make an hour and a half out of it. Which is really par for the course for me. So these two episodes, we get some more of the building of Luffy's, and that's what I'm going to call. I think I kept saying Luffy in the first episode, but I'm going to say Luffy because that's the way that he says it and everybody else says it. We get the first building block to his pirate crew. I am really interested to see exactly how this goes, because it could go one of two ways. Either Luffy slowly amasses a full-on crew, which is certainly interesting, and I would love to see the variety of weirdo characters, or he attempts to do that, but it never quite comes together. I mean, this show is so long running that they could feasibly do both of those things and have plenty of time to do that. But there's just, a number of ways that it could go. Like, he is constantly attempting to get people onto his crew, but something goes wrong, and so he has to pursue them or rescue them or, whatever. And half the show is just him trying to amass some semblance of a crew, get a new ship, the whole deal. And I will confess, as of right now, I am really surprised to see that a pink-haired boy was left behind at the end of the third episode. I don't remember his name. You guys are going to have to help me with names. I remember Luffy, and I remember Zoro, and that's all. That's it. Kobe, thank you, Florian. Yeah, so the fact, he says, I'm certain we'll see each other again. I am also certain of that, Kobe. Like, I have no doubt we will be seeing you again. They wouldn't introduce you in the manner that they have for no reason. But I don't really have any kind of, guess, or what's the word? I don't have a prediction as to how long it's going to be before he turns up again. Because I don't really know how this show is going to handle time, now that I think about it. Because it's so long running as well, that's part of what really throws a wrench in me making predictions. They could feasibly do anything and fit it in, and there'd be plenty of breathing room for them to do that. And I don't know if they'll have, a jump ahead in time at some point. If they aren't playing with time, I feel like we could not see Kobe again until 2/3 of the way through this first season, and I recognize that they're not even really seasons. Everybody don't yell at me. And he'll turn up and he'll be now a full-grown man with military training and all kinds of other talents and much more serious than he was, or he may be the exact same fucking person. So Bernadette, this is the first time I ever listened to a Spoil Me. Can someone help me out? Is the first episode out somewhere yet? Ah, yes, sorry. It should also be out on the Spoil Me feed by now, but it is out on Patreon first. And we tried to do the live on Crowdcast, and for some reason it wasn't working. Apologies to Florian, but we were able to do it via Skype, and we just weren't on camera for it. And that wound up working out as far as, our just being able to post it as a recording. So, yeah, this episode we start off with the introduction of the bounty hunter, whose whole look is honestly goals. He has these like glowing red eyes when Kobe's talking about him, because people say he's a demon in human form. And I really want to be like, do they, Kobe, or do you think that that is true? And Kobe just seems like the kind of person who would overhear somebody's like folklore and dial it to 11 in the retelling, because he has so much anxiety and superstition that he would like completely exaggerate shit. So we get to what turns out to be the Navy base city. This is what I was saying looked kind of like Alcatraz at the end of the last episode, because it's this tower where we know he's locked up like in the, on like the, I want to say like the parade grounds, a courtyard in front of the big tower building. But I wasn't really sure about the rest of the island, because it could be a regular town, or it could be that it's just a complete like prison sort of setting, and all of it is a prison, but the center is like the most high security area. And it turns out that this is basically like a naval base with a regular town that exists around it. And we get a series of pretty fun little bits where they're walking through town and they mention each of the two names, and everybody in town has a very strong reaction to this. So the first one, I believe, is Luffy says something about Zoro, and everybody flees. We see this wonderful like still of folks with their arms twisted around. One guy like has climbed halfway up a pole. Then they begin walking again, and I think this is the one where Kobe says, rumor has it a guy named Captain Morgan is at the base, and everybody does the exact same thing. I really enjoyed getting to see everybody's like postures and how completely exaggerated they are. It really looks like it's the exact same illustration as the first one, except played in reverse, which may well be the case. And Luffy finds this very amusing, because the fact that everybody is scared of a guy named Zoro, but that makes like total sense. But the fact that everybody is also scared of the Marine captain, the Navy captain, that begs a lot more questions. Now, I want to talk about this captain real quick here, because how many of y'all in the chat have watched the Venture Brothers? I would like to know whether or not Baron Underbite from the Venture Brothers is a spoof of this character, because he feels so similar, and it could simply be a coincidence, because, you know, having somebody get a really giant buff dude with a metal lower jaw and kind of an intense, let's say, that'll be the word I use, an intense personality. It's not like completely out of question that they would create a similar style character, but this show has been running a long time, and I really feel like part of the fun of Venture Brothers is that they managed to like squeeze in little bits of nods and spoofs and homages throughout the show. And this guy just feels so much like Baron Underbite to me, except minus the really unfortunate pedophilia jokes that they felt the need to include in Venture Brothers. And I just wondered about that, if any of y'all know, because it might, like I said, just be coincidence, but he feels very similar. And I feel like I want to call this dude Baron Underbite because he feels so much more like a baron than like a captain. And he just looks more like an Underbite than he does a Morgan. I can't say Captain Morgan without picturing the captain from the bottle. I just can't do it. And this guy does not look like that. So it's very hard for me to keep his actual name in mind. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. So we get to the front gates of the naval headquarters. I love this moment because Kobe is like already getting teary-eyed talking about how Luffy-san, I guess this is where we're going to have to part ways. I know it's only been a short time, but Luffy-san is not Luffy. Kobe is the most sincere person. He makes me really uncomfortable for that reason, to be honest. I have just such a problem with being sincere because it requires emotional vulnerability, which I just hate so much. And so how completely like genuine he is about how I owe you so much and you taught me the way. This is some shit that it's like, I don't know how to react to it. If I were Luffy, I would just, I would be like, I really do honestly appreciate it in my heart, but I feel the need to make a joke right now and I can't help it. And it's like a physical compulsion. Kobe says, Florian says, did you warm up to Kobe a little in these episodes? Yes, some, because he's like, I think at least in these episodes, I will put the asterisk at the end there. He doesn't feel like he's completely panicking the way that he was. There's a lot less of the like, absolutely not, absolutely not, absolutely not thing that he does in the previous two. But I say this with the like realization that it just may not have had a chance to show up these episodes. There may not have been a moment for that. And he may still very much be that way. I feel like it's not exactly Kobe that I have an issue with so much as the way that they are depicting him with that. And I could see it being seen as funnier than I think it is. And that's why it's sort of like, what I keep thinking about is just like sitcoms and how there was such a thing for such a long time where sitcom characters were given catchphrases. And these became sort of like marketing ploys. And so there's something about Kobe with his absolutely not that feels like a marketing thing for like a TGIF sitcom. And I think that's why I'm resistant to it. It's just like borderline, did I do that? And I'm just like, oh, come on. It's not good. That's not even that good. So I actually do like Kobe as a character. It's just these moments where I'm just like, oh, dude, stop it. And he does that a lot less this episode, like I said. Also, though, I did want him to realize that, like, the guy who was in charge of the Navy was super terrible, and everybody hated him and was afraid of him, and yet nobody did anything to stop him. So maybe joining the Navy isn't exactly where you want to be. But you know what? That takes a lot bigger thinking and looking at the overall system and its problems, and I don't blame him for not quite being there yet. So anyway, we get to see Zoro tied up in the yard. They call him crucified a couple times, which it's not the kind of crucified that you and I think of with the nails through the hands, but he is tied to a cross, and he hasn't been fed. I think it's been like, 28 days or something like that. The deal was supposed to be for a month, and he's got a little over a week left. So I guess that would really be more like 20 days. And as we find out later, the whole reason that he's tied here is because he decided to step in a conflict between this little girl and her mother and this shit-heel dude that we meet a few minutes later. We don't know that yet, though. First, we see the little girl, and she has run into the courtyard. She scaled the wall and snuck in, despite the fact that right outside, Kobe is saying that that's impossible and we can't do that. There's a literal child. And she runs in there and brings him some rice balls and wants him to eat them. But he knows, Zoro knows, that she's going to get in a lot of trouble if they catch her. And so he's trying to be kind of mean to keep her safe, as we know. And that is, unfortunately, that doesn't quite work out because they get interrupted by Florian. I see Florian saying, "Butt chin guy, Helmapo." Oh my god. This dude's, the whole look of him, I have no idea what to make of this guy's design. This show is banana pants when it comes to character design and costuming. It feels like there's like a grab bag, a Mad Lib somewhere. This dude has like almost a bowl cut, but it's cut higher right across his face so that he has bangs. And I am certain that this like haircut is out there, but I find it so personally offensive that I feel like anybody who gets this haircut should go on some kind of list. I feel like we need to keep an eye on people who look like this, who do this to themselves. This is a cry for help. Anybody with this haircut, you may be such a nice person. I don't care. You are a serial killer. I see you with this hair in the street. I am fucking crossing the street to get away from you. No. This is terrible. And it's not, the hair is probably the worst part. But he's wearing this like purple double-breasted suit with a really wide collar and a gold chain and like a pink undershirt with also a wide collar. And there's a weird vibe of like Saturday Night Fever meets Scarface. And then you look at his hair and it's like almost soccer mom hair, but like shrunken upward. And then his whole face, he's got the butt chin. It's so long. His whole face is so long. And his voice is bananas. And fucking Kobe is watching this and he's like, oh, he must be with the Navy. Now that little girl will finally be safe. And I'm like, Kobe, we need to get you over to like TV Tropes and have you read some of the entries so that you can be better equipped to differentiate between who the good guy and the bad guy is going to be in a scene based on their clothing, because it could not be more obvious here that this guy is the danger to this little girl. And I'm going to need you to get on board and figure this all out because you're really bad at this. So this dude takes one of her rice balls and eats it and then spits it out and throws the other ones on the ground and screams at her for using sugar instead of salt and literally stomps it into the ground. And this poor little girl who has worked really hard on it is like sitting there crying, and it's really so sad. She says, I worked so hard to make those. Oh my God. What I love the introduction to a character like this established, because like this is something that a lot of authors have a hard time with, I find. Introducing somebody who is meant to be like a villain or at least despicable, and doing so without them being so like gratuitously awful for no apparent reason that you're just like, why would anybody? This feels right to me. This dude, we know later, we find out anyway, that he had like a run-in with this little girl already. And I could totally see this guy actually eating those rice balls and being fine with this, like, still yelling at her and punting her over the wall. Don't get me wrong. But not being quite as awful. If only those rice balls had tasted better. I really do think the fact that they weren't what he wanted at the moment when he bit into them, that sent him over the edge. And as somebody who has taken a sip of unsweetened black tea thinking that it was going to be Coca-Cola, I have to say, there is nothing that puts me in a bad mood quite like biting into something or taking a sip of something and it not being at all the thing that I thought it was going to be. I don't know if any of you all have had that, but there was this whole trend a couple of months back where everybody was making things out of cake. And they were making, like, things that looked like fucking pizzas and roast turkeys and shit. But then you'd cut into it and it was a cake. And I was always just like, look, I understand the artistry behind this. But if you bring in what looks like a beautiful roast chicken and fucking roasted potatoes on the side, I'm going to get my mouth all fixed for roast chicken and roast potatoes on the side. And then you're going to cut into it and show me cake. And you're going to want me to be excited about that because you've done something cool. And I will want so much to be excited. But I won't be. I'll be mad because I was really excited for that roasted chicken and the roasted potatoes on the side. And so what I'm saying is I kind of get where this guy is coming from. Sweet rice balls, when you're expecting savory rice balls, I'm certain would put me in a bad mood also. And this is kind of this little girl's own fault. I'm just kidding. No, but I'm not kidding. So anyway, he, shows her this placard, those who help criminals will be executed. And thankfully, like, the guys who are on his side, are at least reticent to, like, carry out orders, because later on somebody tells his father, really, Captain Morgan, tells one of the guys to, like, execute this little girl, and they don't want to do it, and he winds up just killing them because they won't do it. I think he kills them, right? At least his son just wants to catapult her over the wall. I mean, I suppose that's a little bit merciful. I don't know. So, yeah, the whole thing that he keeps doing, too, is don't make me tell my dad that you didn't, like, fulfill my orders. And it's really wild to me that that threat even works, because everybody has to see how his dad does not give a fuck about him. Later on, his father literally tells him he was too pathetic to even be worth hitting, which is devastating. Like, it's sort of, I think, written to be more of a joke, but it is actually a really fucked up thing to say. And I was just like, ouch. And I would really think, considering the fact that his dad seems to have nothing but open disdain for him, that everybody around him would not, like, really take him seriously either, because they'd be like, well, even if I did decide to just give you the finger to your face, if you go and run and tell your daddy, this guy gave me the finger, your dad's just going to mock you for people being able to give you the finger and you not doing anything. But I guess somebody like his father can be really unpredictable in terms of, like, where they draw the line for their pride. So sometimes you would think somebody would be unwilling to, like, take action on whatever front, and then it all of a sudden they actually take personal offense and it becomes a whole different thing. So I guess with somebody who's, like, as unpredictable as Captain Morgan does seem to be, maybe it's just best to err on the side of caution at all times. I guess I can understand that. I will say, for this Navy guy, when he says, like, to the little girl, curl yourself into a little ball, it was really sweet, like, the soft way. He was so, like, sort of tender when he says it. And of course, Luffy catches her as she goes over the wall with his giant rubbery arms. And this is probably the moment that I began to like Kobe more, was when he catches her and puts her down. Kobe's the one who runs over and is like, oh my God, are you okay? And he's looking out for her more. Luffy-san just puts her down. I keep calling him Luffy-san. Luffy puts her down. And immediately his attention is, like, back in the yard and back on Zoro and figuring out what to do about Zoro. Because he's a little bit ADD, I'm realizing. Like, Luffy has a problem with keeping his attention on one thing at a time. And he also hyperfixates, which anybody who has ADD knows how that works. You get obsessive about one thing and then everything else you just can't fucking focus on at all. So there's just one thing that gets 110% of your attention and is super important to you. And then everything else is just fucking, like, static background noise that you occasionally check in with because you have to, or else you'll, like, starve to death or die. And that's kind of the way I'm feeling with this guy. It's like Pirate King, 110%. Getting my crew together, associated with Pirate King goal, 110%. Eating, forgot about it. Definitely want to do it. Hold on, I guess we're going to have to fit that in because I'm low-key about to faint. I forgot about it, though. And then this thing with the little girl, he like saves her because it's the right thing to do in the moment. But once he puts her down and she's fine, he's like, okay, what's now? What's next? I don't care. Like, completely just moves on. So, inside the compound, we get to see this dude. I forgot to, because when I was describing Butt Chin's outfit, I really forgot about the giant white shoes that he wears. And I don't know why, but those really make the outfit. He is like, I mean, nobody, I'm going to put Alvida's outfit as the, like, from 1 to 10. 1 probably being Kobe, no offense, Kobe, but you've got a very ordinary look. And then Alvida being 10. I'm going to put this guy's outfit at like an 8. Because Alvida's outfit is straight bonkers. Like, her shit just doesn't make any sense. And that's part of why I want to cosplay her, because nobody who hasn't seen this show will even get that it's a cosplay, because it doesn't look like it goes together in any way. And so her shit is at 10. But this guy, those shoes really, he was at a 7. Those shoes ratcheted up to an 8. I think it's the size of them, really, that's the thing. And the fact that they combined with the, like, bell-bottom pants he's wearing just give him this look like his feet are the same size as his giant head. So, okay. This is when Zoro says something like 10 days left. And Butt Chin says, assuming you can live that long. And we find out a little bit later, he has no intention of letting Zoro go or keeping him alive. He is going to execute him, because what the hell is Zoro going to even do about it? And that's a fair question. This is the kind of thing, guys, those of us who are beginning to sort of see the light in terms of American justice system and systems of government, we've, like, kind of forgotten that in order for rules to be upheld, there needs to be some sort of recourse for when the rules are broken. And so a lot of us have coasted on this lovely idea about how, like, well, they won't be allowed to do that. That's against the rules. And when bullies have enough people afraid of them, they can go, oh, it is against the rules. What are you going to do about it? And nobody is going to do shit. So then they get to just do what they were going to do. And that's really upsetting. And I feel a lot for Zoro in this, because he walked into this thing thinking it was in good faith and that he was, like, you know, sacrificing for the sake of this. And now it's going to turn out that he was sacrificing for no reason. And likely this guy is just going to go and continue to terrorize people after he's dead. And it really didn't, like, gain anything. It just sort of postponed it all. And that's that's a mood, man. Sorry, Zoro, but he does wind up getting out of there, so it's fine. Kobe turns around from talking to this little girl. Luffy's gone. And he is back in the courtyard. He says, so here you're bad guy. And I just really enjoyed this interaction. Luffy is so unnerving. And I think I said this when I was in the episode with you, Florian, how, like, he is so unconcerned with his own safety, because he has the confidence of knowing that he's not, like, unkillable, but it's obviously it would be pretty hard. And I find that really threatening. I think was the word that I used last time, where he's so amiable, and yet he just, like, takes out a bunch of guys with hardly any effort, and you turn around and their fucking swords are cut in half. And so I find Luffy really frightening at times. It's a combination of being the sort of agent of chaos that he clearly is, And also, his abilities still being a bit of an unknown quantity because we're still finding out shit that he can do. Like, he gets shot at in this episode, and basically his body is so rubbery that he can just, like, spoosh out. That sounds really gross. Apologies. He can just sort of spring back out all of the bullets from his body. Which, that's really... If you can't get shot, how else is somebody going to be able to kill you? I'm really trying to picture how anybody could kill him. You try and chop his neck. That won't work because his neck will just bend. Maybe chopping, like if it's sharp enough, it would work. I don't know though. Then we have him getting smashed on the head with a mace last episode. That doesn't do anything. He gets shot here. Bullets just spring right off him. If you tried to, like, burn him, maybe. Rubber burns. So that might be a way. Drowning? Maybe. I'm sort of getting into this like I did with Luke Cage. Where you try and, like, you know, this was the whole thing on that. Where people were just trying to shoot the guy who was bulletproof. And then they began to realize that they needed to just get a little bit more creative with the way that he is, like, needs to be killed. But yeah, so he's, he's talking to Zoro, and Zoro is the one that's got the, like, mask on and is leering at the camera a little bit, doing that, like, talking up from his eyebrows kind of thing, man, which is, like, the signal that somebody is really, like, dangerous. And yet, he just doesn't give off the same kind of fearsome vibe to me that Luffy gives off. And he asks Luffy to pick up the rice ball that got smashed on the ground. And Luffy's like, it's basically all mud. Are you sure you want this? And he insists, and he eats it with great gusto, and he says that it was good. Thanks for the food. And Luffy gets a little look on his face, which I think is meant to signal he knows this dude is actually a good guy, not a bad guy, just based on this interaction. So this seals the deal for him. He goes and tells the little girl that he ate every last bite. And this is when Kobe says Zoro really is evil as the stories say. And the little girl tells her story about what happened. He let himself be crucified in our place. Helmeppo is Captain Morgan's son. I would love to know if there's a meaning behind that name, because it's so odd. And he's, like, going down the street with his stupid sword. He's got this, like, basically, like, wild dog, wolf sort of pet. And the dog bashes into what appears to be this little girl's, her parents' restaurant. And she starts to smack the dog because he, like, jumps up on a table and starts eating somebody's food with a broom to get it off the table. And the dog is about to just, like, go after this little girl because basically Helmeppo is standing by and watching. He's enjoying the whole thing, and it's not like, it doesn't seem like he exactly sicks the dog on her, but it amounts to that, you know? And all of a sudden, the dog goes flying, and Zoro stands up, and Helmeppo is, like, throwing a tantrum. And who are you? Why is a pirate hunter defying the Navy? To his credit, Zoro does say, shut up and just let me eat in peace. And I have to admire the man, because honestly, he was willing to just let it go and be like, you fell on the side of the wrong one today. Take your dog, get the fuck out of here. But no. Helmeppo can't leave it at that. They wind up having a confrontation in which Helmeppo winds up on the floor, staring up at Zoro from the point of his sword. And it seems for sure like Zoro's got him on the ropes until he reminds Zoro of his own standing in the town and who his father is. And then is like, if we make a deal that you get strung up in place of these two for 1 month, and you survive it, I'll let you live. And I don't really know why Zoro agrees to this, because what he should do is just kill this guy and then bounce. But I guess there's Navy outside the door, that this guy has a bit of an entourage. And this dude isn't just like a murderer, he is a bounty hunter. A bounty hunter isn't like, piracy is something that the Navy handles. But him being a bounty hunter, he's not really an enemy of the Navy until he joins up with Luffy. Is that correct? Anyway, either way, they wind up making this deal, and we jump immediately from there to Himepo going back into the restaurant and terrorizing everybody in there. And we see this red-haired girl that had been getting off the boat and stealing a bunch of treasure at the end of the previous episode. And she is sitting in here having a drink, and we wind up seeing like a little thing with her later. She hasn't come to the forefront of the story at all. But, we just see the flash of her here. And I think that's the same girl, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, right. Florian says a bounty hunter also hunts pirates. Right. Okay, cool. Gabriella says same girl. Okay, that's what I thought. And at this point, Luffy loses his temper a little bit, and he punches this guy in the face a few times with his rubber fists. And this dude says that he's going to tell his daddy. And Luffy, for some reason, just yells out how he's going to have Zoro join his crew in the middle of this restaurant. And I'm like, maybe just keep that shit to yourself. Then we cut to the introduction of Captain Morgan. And this dude is so insane. He's like toxic masculinity if it were nuclear level toxicity. Like, this is really, really... One of his hands is a gun, I think. I forget what parts of him are what. All I really remember is that his lower jaw is made out of metal. And at this point is when his son barges in and is like, this guy hit me. And as we find out later, his dad really can't be asked. Like, the whole defending his son, it turns out isn't really his bag, but for some reason this dude keeps on depending on his dad anyway, despite his father making it very clear, I have no interest in cleaning up your messes, really. We get a flashback with Zoro and him fighting his, maybe little sister? I'm not sure. Older sister? Or perhaps just good friend? And they are doing the staff fighting, and she says, "You're still as weak as ever, Zoro." I think it's a she. It might be a he. It's hard to tell because they're, meant to be children. So, and we see her say, "I can't die in a place like this." And then we come out of that memory, and we don't know who this is, but we know that whomever they are, they're very important to Zoro, and this person winds up showing up again and being it's just really being hammered home that they were very influential to the way that Zoro saw the world and trained and everything. And then we have Luffy putting it to him, "Hey, why don't you join up with my pirate crew?" And at first there's the whole, oh, why would I want to be a pirate? They're despicable. But Luffy is very affable, and it's hard to really call somebody who seems this weirdly innocent despicable and really mean it. I love when he says, "Well, you're going to join up with me." And Zoro says, "Stop deciding things for me." And he's just like, I don't think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to keep deciding stuff on your behalf. I love this. And he says, if you want your sword back, I'll go get it, and then you can join my crew. And just runs off and decides that he is going to handle this all alone. When we go up to the roof and we see the interaction between Helmeppo and his dad, Morgan, he's yelling at him, your dad is the one who's great. Me. And chucks him on the ground. Oh, okay. One arm is an axe. A giant axe. I don't know if the other arm is like I think the other arm's a regular hand. But yeah, this dude is just really meant to be seen as a complete monster. He's the one who's like, I hope that you killed the little girl who snuck in. When his son says she's just a kid, he points at one of his men and says, okay, you go into town and find her and exterminate her. And this guy's like, you can't be serious. I'm not going to do it. And the captain just smashes this dude in the head. And I'm pretty certain he's dead. It was with my strength that I rose to the rank of captain. In this world, titles mean everything. This means that I, the captain and highest ranking officer at this base, am the most superior person here. So everything I do is right. Isn't that right, you guys? You know what's so sad is that there are people out there who have this sort of thinking, and it's really mind-blowing. The kid's death can wait for now. I love that he follows up with that. So, there's this huge statue of himself that is meant to be erected by everybody at the top of this tower so that he will be looming over the entire town. And as they are using their ropes to sort of pull it upward, this is when shit starts to happen in other areas. So first we see the red-haired girl, and she's in this prison and going from door to door and like picking the locks. Not clear exactly what it is she's after or who she's here for or what. And Luffy has grabbed Helmeppo and is dragging him down the hall until Helmeppo tells him which room the swords are in. And when we wind up going to his room eventually, it is honestly really funny. It's just so, like, it's spot on for somebody who has a lot of money, but is also extremely immature and lacking in imagination. And Luffy gets his swords back. Meanwhile, down in the what do you call it? Courtyard. I keep like blanking on a word for this. Kobe is trying to help Zoro down off of the cross. And it's Kobe who informs him how he wasn't planning to like honor your agreement at all. He intended to execute you. This was one of those things that I totally understand that this is just like an animation issue, but it looks like Kobe takes like 45 minutes to untie this dude, and I was getting such anxiety. Oh my god. And he begs Zoro to please help Luffy because of, you know, Luffy is the only one who can save you. And I think you're also the only one who can save Luffy-san now. And, the episode ends with the confrontation between, Zoro and Kobe and Captain Morgan, and, they get interrupted by Luffy, but it's like, it ends just as that happens. And it was just a really mean spot to end things, and I was really glad that I at least got to watch the next episode. Luffy, and by interrupt, I mean that he uses his, like, slingshot arms to propel himself between the gunman and Zoro, and, like I said, sproings the bullets away. And he says, I told you I was strong. And I'm like, that's not even really strong. That's just bananas. It would have been really messed up if he like sproinged out all of those bullets and then they just like absolutely leveled all of the gunmen that are just standing there, you know? That would be messed up. So, the next episode begins with Zoro finally deciding that he is going to join up and telling Luffy that all 3 of those swords are his because he fights with the 3-sword method. And then we get to see exactly how those that 3rd sword is handled, and I just could not stop laughing. Also, I should mention that despite the fact that apparently Kobe was working on those ropes that whole time, when this episode starts, he tells Luffy, now get me untied already. So Kobe did not succeed. And this is when we get a little bit of an explanation about the devil fruits. So we've got Captain Morgan, and he says he must have eaten one of those devil's fruits. And then there's like a cut to the devil fruits. Whoever eats one is said to gain seemingly unworldly abilities. And it should be mentioned that the illustration of them, it sort of varies. Because there's like one that looks like it's almost like a blackberry, one that looks like a pineapple. Then there's like a bunch of them that look like they might be like giant blueberries or pomegranates or something. And they give you various powers. The power to breathe fire, the power to cause tsunamis. There are all sorts of rumors, but there are many types, and almost nothing is known about them. It's said the secrets to them lie in the Grand Line. But there's no question Straw Hat just displayed a devil power. So it's really, that's fun because this means that either we can acquire some devil fruits and give people abilities who don't have them already, or we can meet some characters in the future who have really weird abilities, and that'll be fun also. And right now, I just don't really know what ability, like, breathing fire doesn't seem like it's super useful. It's the kind of thing like, yeah, in combat, and that's literally it. I mean, if we were living in an era where you didn't have, like, an electric stove you turned on, then it would be super useful. But I'm just trying to think, like, causing tsunamis, that also doesn't feel like it's something super useful. And, I mean, I don't know what I would choose. You know, I've always said that if I were going to be able to, like, choose a superpower, I would want teleportation. Because I just love the idea of not having to worry about the travel aspect of getting anywhere. Like, being able to, oh, I ran out of cinnamon. And then just teleport into Walmart and pay and then teleport right home again. Or if you were going to be like a scoundrel, you could just teleport into a bank vault and steal all of it and then teleport the fuck out again. And also, you know, you go on a trip somewhere and then you're like, oh, I forgot my, you know, whatever, my shampoo. You can teleport back, grab it. You wouldn't even have to like pack. You could just book a hotel room and that's all you'd need. But you could teleport home and just grab whatever you needed. I would love it. That would just be the best. And you know, the one drawback I could see from that would just be like gaining even more weight because all need to move would be like kind of negated. And if I were going to have a minor superpower, it would be for my clothes to never get stained again. Because nothing bums me out, guys, like staining an outfit that I like. Especially when you don't have a lot of money to replace stuff. It is just the worst. And there are some things that you stain it a certain way, and there is no undoing that, and that is that. And I would love to have that as a minor superpower. No stains ever again. Thank you. So, anyway, we go from there to the the fight, which I'm not going to get into too much detail on because I've only got 15 minutes left at this point, I think. Less. Wow, I've got 10 minutes left. But suffice to say that it's really amusing how all of these dudes are charging them and fucking Zoro still hasn't gotten untied yet. And all these dudes are apparently using their swords. Like, they had guns, and I guess that they just decided to put those away due to the fact that Luffy was able to jump in between them and just shed bullets, so it didn't matter. And so, Luffy has gotten Zoro untied just in time that he shields Kobe, who is, like, crouched on the ground crying. And I love when he says, "Don't move and you'll live." And these dudes all start crying and saying, "Too scary," which is honestly, I don't know why that made me laugh so hard, but it really was so funny. So, he says to Luffy, "I'll be a pirate, and I promise you that, now that I have gone against the Navy, I already am seen as like an outlaw and a bad guy. So, I'll do that, but I need to be able to also pursue my other great ambition, which is to become the world's greatest swordsman. And if you get in the way of that, you'd better accept responsibility and apologize to me," which I found amazing. I just love that. It's not like, "You'd better, I'll fight you." It's just more like, "I would really appreciate your acknowledgement of that. If you would just, promise to not do it again." It's so level-headed. I should mention, too, there's an odd thing in this scene, and I think it's meant to be cloud shadows traveling overhead, but there are these two long shadows that sort of swoop over everybody, and it is an odd thing to add cloud shadows to this scene. I don't really know why they did it. Having clouds scud by in the sky in the background, that might help to illustrate that's what's going on, but there aren't any, and so just the cloud shadows is a weird thing. It's not that there aren't any, because there are clouds in the sky, but because of the angle that is done, it just doesn't go together, so you don't make that connection, and it took me a minute, because I thought that, Baron Underbite was coming up from behind or something, because he's super tall. So, anyway, this is when Luffy does the gum kick and kicks all of these guys down to the ground while the Baron stares and is horrified. All of these men are basically telling him, "We couldn't even handle Zoro, and now we've got this fucking bonkers rubber man. We're definitely not going to go up against them." And here goes Baron Underbite. This is a direct order. "Everybody who spouted weakness a moment ago must now shoot themselves in the head. I have no need for weakling soldiers." And it, for some reason, despite this guy being this way, comes as quite a shock to them later when they beat Captain Morgan and all of his men are totally fine with that. Of course they are. This guy is a fucking lunatic. But it is really, really fun to see this dude this, "I am Navy Captain Axe Hand Morgan. I'm Luffy. Nice to meet ya. Die!" And you see, he is literally 3 times Luffy's size. He's enormous. But Luffy is very bendy, and evidently that just, that's enough. This guy, his elbow is sharp. I don't know if it's supposed to be like the axe handle jabbing out the back of his arm. It's deeply upsetting, and I couldn't take my eyes off it. I don't know why. And I love the fact that Luffy is punching him in the face, and his son is holding Kobe hostage with a gun and telling Luffy, "Stop punching him and pay attention." And Luffy's just too damn focused on punching this guy to have time to worry about the fact that his friend's life is in danger, which really feels like that's just how Luffy's gonna be. And, I guess I'm just going to have to accept that about him. Pay attention! I have a hostage here. So embarrassing when you're trying to be threatening and you have to yell at a person to pay attention. Long story short, Luffy, as I said, beats the captain. I am assuming, is straight up dead. It's hard because, like, the way that people, like, are handled on this show, it's never entirely clear to me whether or not we're supposed to accept that they're dead, because I know, like, on some ratings, it's not meant to be, like, what I'm saying is, like, for example, Last Airbender, characters being dead it was something that was often handled off screen. And I'm not sure how this show does that, but I'm assuming that this guy is actually dead. But anyway, everybody sort of accepts that means, you know, he's gone, he's beaten, and his son is also beaten. And all of these dudes seem totally fine with that and let them walk away. Then we cut to inside the, like, headquarters for the Marines, this redheaded girl again. And she is talking to a couple guards and is like, hey, sorry about that. You're just going to have to sit there for a while. And she goes into like the inner sanctum and starts, like, looting the place. And we see all of these bottles of wine and expensive clothing that seems to be, like, draped over things and forgotten. And I thought maybe she was just going to, like, go through everything, but she finds a vault that's hidden behind a barrel, and that's what she starts, like, going after. And it's like, it looked to me like she either knew the password or it was already open. I think it's meant to be that it was already open, because there's the thing, she says, this isn't a chart, what is this mark? And I guess that's meant to be, it says Captain Buggy, the man known as Buggy the Immortal. It's a weird little flash that we get when she opens that it totally looks like somebody who's wearing a giant clown nose. And it's really, like, super creepy because of that. And I'm pretty sure that's not meant to be what it looked like. Maybe it is, I don't know. But, yeah, I found Captain Buggy immediately deeply creepy due to that. And, yeah, she's super mad. Whatever she was after, which was the map to the Grand Line, is already gone. And evidently, she has goals of becoming a pirate herself. And for some reason, Luffy has not tried to recruit her, because maybe he doesn't know what her talents are, or her goals, or anything. But part of me is like, I would love it if Luffy would recruit her. And part of me is like, nah, girl, go on and do your own thing. You don't need Luffy. Look at you out here getting shit done. So then we have everybody, like, eating dinner, and we get the talk about the Grand Line, and how the Grand Line goes through the Red Line at a right angle and stretches around the world. It was said that Gold Roger, king of the pirates, blah, blah, blah. We had this whole thing in the intro, which Florian and I discussed in the last episode. And just the description of, like, what people are after, and the fact that the Grand Line is said to be sort of a pirate graveyard, and that if you go there, you are almost definitely not coming back out again. It's an intense battlefield. And the fact that Luffy wants to go there makes everybody a little sad, because they seem to think that he's just, like, committing suicide, essentially. Meanwhile, Kobe still has his heart set on joining the Marines. And I genuinely did. I really thought that we were going to get Kobe deciding that that wasn't what he wanted after all. And instead, we get Kobe doubling down that he wants to join the Navy. And a moment where Luffy basically sets it up to look like they aren't in league with one another, because he doesn't want it to reflect badly for Kobe, so that it won't interfere with their decision on whether to accept him or not. And, it isn't until a little bit later that Kobe realizes what it was that Luffy was trying to do. I assert maybe Luffy wasn't trying to do that. That's how Kobe interprets it. And it's a very generous interpretation, and it gives, like, you know, it makes it feel like this guy's really looking out for you and thinking ahead. But what if that's not what was going on, and he's just really fucking clueless? I don't know. So that moment where he, like, you know, gets left behind because he's joining the Marines, I was really surprised by that. I thought this was going to, this, like, having his eyes open about the nature of the Navy would be what motivated him to throw in with Luffy completely. And instead, he just sort of doubles down. And meanwhile, Luffy and his friend Zoro have to fucking make a break for it because the Navy guys are like, okay, so we overheard you guys talking about how you're pirates, and pirates are, like, low-key against the rules. I don't know if you knew that, but they are. So y'all are going to have to leave, and we won't, like, arrest you, but you can't stay here. And Luffy just kind of takes this in stride and is like, all right, well, I guess we'll be going now. And it's really funny because since Luffy, like, saved them all from their shitty boss, they do owe him a little bit. So once they're on their boat and they're, like, leaving the bay, all of the Navy dudes all, like, salute. And then as they're standing there, this guy in charge says, well, all of our salutes were against protocol, so we all have to go without food for 2 days. Do you understand? And that is the end of it. I really loved that moment. I don't know why, but I just found that so funny. It's just like, haha, well, we salute you and thank you for your help, but also the fact that we're doing this is not okay. That's a good way to end that episode. So, yeah, I think that's it. We've got Luffy and Zoro on their tiny little ship together, and Kobe staying behind in order to get his training as a naval officer, as he says. I love Luffy saying, I'm going to be king of the pirates again. And the way that Zoro's face kind of changes and he just is like, you seem really obsessed with this. What is the deal? Like, he's getting irritated. And Luffy says that he made a promise to somebody, but we just get this vague sort of silhouette. And we don't actually hear, like, what happened here or who they are. And that's the end of the episode. So, all right, guys. Well, thank you again so much. I really appreciate all of you being here in the chat. It's been very active. Thank you, Florian, for this. And I am really looking forward to watching the next episodes. So until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.